James Harden just finished talking to the media following the Lakers' pasting of the Houston Rockets, in which he has said, and this I'm giving you just some of the things he said. We're going to bring you the large chunks of this as it becomes available. Quote, "I love this city. I've literally done everything I can. This situation is crazy. I don't think it can be fixed. Thanks." And then he left the podium.
Boom!
All right, this is after he had said, we're not even close to the Lakers. We're just not good enough chemistry, talent-wise. He just lit the Rockets on fire and now walks out saying, no, it can't be fixed. I mean, this is Harden saying, you know what, I'm done with this whole waiting it out. I'm just going to continue to blister on social media and in interviews until you absolutely trade me. I don't know that I don't know that Harden's going to play for the Rockets again after this. I mean, I don't know, and I don't mean it could be a combination of Harden saying, "I'm done. You're trading me. I've played my last game." It could be the team saying, "Dude, you can't just come out here and say that."
Quiche on him
and say this. We're going to deactivate you until we trade you. But I would not be surprised if we just saw James Harden's last game with the Rockets.
How about that?
Oh,
and all you did was make fun of what he looked like in his uniform.
If you're going to pick a last game, you got to look better in your pregame than that. Let's hear Harden again. Here's the end of his press conference saying what he said. Go ahead.
We're just not good enough. We don't obviously chemistry, talent-wise, just everything. And it was clear, like I said, these last few games. And just from the beginning of the game, it was just aggressive, veteran team, obviously, championship team, and one of the best teams that we have in this league. I love this city. I literally, done everything that I can. This situation is crazy. It's something that I don't think can be fixed. So, thanks.
That's it. Thanks. Can't be fixed. I'm done. I mean, that's it. If I had to say, has James Harden play another game for the Rockets, I would say no. I would say you just watch his last game, this blowout loss to the Lakers. This James Harden story drops in our lap, and hey, Ric Bucher, Fox Sports 1 NBA insider extraordinaire, drops by. Rick, look, we'll get to Kyrie Irving in a second, but James Harden's postgame after this blowout loss to the Lakers, in which he basically lit the team on fire, saying, we don't have any chemistry anymore. We don't have anything going on. We're not close to the Lakers. I've done everything I can for this city and this team. I don't think it can be fixed. And he walks off the podium. Does he play another game for the Rockets after that, Rick?
Well, I do expect that he will play. He'll continue to play. I've got no indication that he won't, but I'm also not surprised. For me, it was a matter of when, not if, that he was going to pull the pin on the hand grenade, because he's played nice, and the Rockets showed some signs of life, as everybody in the league has showed some signs of life. I just got off a conversation with one of my NBA sources, and we were talking about the fact that we haven't heard of any coaches on the hot seat. That's just because the play has been so bad. Nobody feels like they're really out of it or that they're measurably lower than anybody else. But for the expectations that James Harden has for what he wants to accomplish and what he wants to get done, here's the reality. There's not a single thing that James Harden said that is not accurate. What the Rockets have is not a contender. They're not close to the Lakers. They don't match up well with them, as we've seen in the last two games, and they don't have any sense of chemistry. So it really comes down to, if he wants to get out of Houston, what he has to hope is that Philadelphia continues to struggle and doesn't have wins like they had against Miami, although Miami was missing at least two of their top three players, maybe three now that I think about it. And so I don't know whether you put this one in the good win category for the Philadelphia 76ers. What I've continued to hear is that if Harden is going to get moved, it will be to Philadelphia, and it's simply a matter of at what point does Philadelphia struggle enough that Daryl Morey pulls that trigger.
So when it comes to this, Rick, I realize this is a brand new situation, right? We're dealing with this 5 minutes ago, but here he is. He lights the Rockets up. He says this can't be fixed. Is this something that takes a day or two? Does this take a week? I like to think that the Rockets at this point know it's the point of no return, and they have to make a deal at some point, and it's got to be sooner rather than later, right?
Yeah, that has not been their attitude. Their feeling is that they want to get. They don't want to sell low. They want to get what they can get. They knew about this coming into the season, that this was the stance that James Harden had, and I don't know that they ever believed that they could right the ship. I don't know that I never heard from anyone out of Houston that they thought that they could bring James back on board. They've always looked at it as, we need to make a deal, but we want to make a deal that is at least, we can say on some level, is on our terms. Now, whether they can ultimately get what they've said they wanted or what I've been told they want, which is the Anthony Davis deal of 2 or 3 quality young players and 2 first-round picks, they may have to pull back on that. It may be 1 or 2 quality players and 1 first-round pick. But I just haven't heard anything commensurate to that has been offered at this point. And again, the difficulty is you haven't had one of these top teams just completely fall out and crater. And so that's why you haven't seen anybody being willing to meet Houston's expectations. If Golden State, the way they started, if they had continued in that direction, I think you probably would have seen them sweeten their offer and do something to get it done. But we haven't had a team out there that thinks it's a bona fide playoff team or is in a position where it says we got to kind of go for it now. We don't have that team out there in that position to say, let's go ahead and put the offer out there that's going to get us James Harden.
Still never understand why the Lakers had to give so much up for a distressed property, because that's all that was going to happen. But so be it. That's in the past. But how about we trade James Harden to Brooklyn and maybe Kyrie Irving comes back to work?
Yeah. Look, actually, another distressed property that who knows? I mean, who knows where that goes? That isn't a good situation, obviously. But, I mean, I thought maybe, just maybe, Steve Nash, being who he is, knowing what good chemistry is on a team, and if they got off to a good start, we saw Kevin Durant come back healthy, and Kyrie and KD seem to have something going, that just maybe. But the latest I've heard is that you got a lot of individual camps on that team that are really going to be able to, it's going to be hard to bring them together. And then you have Kyrie, the artiste, who saw what happened in Washington and wanted to make a political statement and wasn't sure exactly how to do it. And what I was told is stepped out because of that, wanted to make a statement. And now you have the COVID situation, which is going to be an ongoing problem. I mean, we didn't plan on talking about this, but as you guys know, the new rules and regulations came out today about what teams are expecting players to do, and people that I've talked to are shocked that Michelle Roberts agreed to those standards, and the idea that the league can actually enforce them or that it's going to happen is just it's unrealistic. I'll leave it at that. We are going to have positive cases. It's not the bubble, and it's not going to be anything close to the bubble. And there's nothing, quite honestly, that they can put in place that is going to avoid that. The difference between the NBA and the NFL is at the end of NFL is just you have more bodies to choose from. The NBA takes a lower threshold of positive tests to eliminate your ability to field a team or put a team on the court. And so that's the challenge that the NBA is facing, and I don't know that there's a realistic alternative other than going back to a bubble, and they don't want to do that.
Ric Bucher with us, the Jason Smith Show with Mike Harmon. But the thing about Kyrie, Rick, when it comes down to him, obviously, as you said, the NBA is going to investigate him because here's Kyrie who says he walked away for what happened at the Capitol last week, and I get it. Look, everybody's mad. We're all mad.
Yep.
You can figure out a way to do what you want to do. Do you need to skip games? You're the only NBA player. And then video comes out of potentially of you at your sister's birthday party. And tonight, instead of the game, he's at the opening of a political campaign for someone running for district attorney in Manhattan. I mean, that's something that at some point the Nets have to stop and say, okay, hang on. This is now at a point where we have to figure out some kind of solution, and maybe the solution isn't Kyrie on the team. But I mean, he didn't make it 10 games in with KD before this came up, Rick.
No, it's fair, but let's be honest. Did we not know that this is Kyrie Irving?
Yeah.
Did we not have enough evidence from what transpired in Cleveland and what happened in Boston? This is always the tricky thing that every NBA team faces, which is here's a guy that's ultra talented. I mean, I love Kyrie's game. I think he's a fantastic player, and he can do things that very few players in the league can do. Are you willing to accept the baggage and the uncertainty in order to get that very rare jewel on your roster? And teams talk themselves into, we can put guardrails up. We can protect it. We can protect ourselves. We can find a way to get the best out of them. And we've seen plenty of situations where teams have managed to do that, or they've converted a guy because of their culture. So I understand, the bargain that Brooklyn made, and that they're facing this situation. But here's the other part. Like, again, it's a little bit like, it's even worse than the James Harden thing, which is, okay, if we move him, we got to get something back in return that's of equal value. And if you're the Houston Rockets, other than you already have John Wall there, you're not making a James Harden, Kyrie Irving trade. That doesn't especially from what I've heard about James Harden not exactly being on board with Tillman Fertitta's political persuasion. How do you think Kyrie Irving is going to operate in Texas?
Yeah,
with a supporter of an outspoken supporter of the current president. So it's a mess, and I wish I could tell you that there is a clear path of delineation or a clear path to a solution, but I don't have one, and I dare say the Brooklyn Nets do not either.
Well, we'll try to keep pondering that one. Jason will write 4,000 words for it tomorrow. It's Ric Bucher, Bleacher Report senior writer, FS1 analyst, the Bucher and Friends podcast. You can go find that. Apple Podcasts all over. Instagram at Ric Bucher. That's RICBUCHER. That's where you find him on Instagram. That's where you find him on Twitter. All right, for folks that now that college football is done, the NFL is down to just a few teams. If you were to say, all right, here's what you missed in 30 seconds. Here's the best story out of the first, seventh of this regular season. What would you tell them?
Knicks. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Go ahead, Rick. I'm sorry. I just that was like a Pavlovian reaction. Sorry.
It's Knicks go, and it's not Knicks yo. And I completely screwed that up the last time I was on. Nonetheless, I would say that the great story is that we've only had a couple of games, and this doesn't create a fanfare, but that we have games and that they're continuing to play, and that we've only had a couple that have had to be postponed. But if I look across the landscape at who is doing what, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Oklahoma City being surprisingly competitive. But it's all the usual suspects when it comes to the teams that are showing themselves as of right now. I'm trying to think of a team that has surprised us for where they are, and I don't know that I have one right now. I mean, this is I would say that this is the best thing about anybody who hasn't paid attention to the NBA to this point. You really haven't missed anything. Like nothing extraordinary has happened to this point. If you start watching starting right now, you're good. Like there's nothing that has transpired that you're gonna say, oh man, that really defined the season. Has not happened yet.
Yeah, you can say, hey, a couple months ago, Lakers won the championship. Right. Who's the best team so far? Lakers. All right, I'm good. All right, now I'm all caught up now. All right, great. I can start watching.
Until further notice,
right.
Lakers are on top. LeBron's the MVP. We'll wake you up when something changes.
There you have it.
Oh, boy. I'll tell you, LeBron and Julius Randle, it would be some kind of battle for MVP right now. You can follow. What? Go ahead, Rick. He is on Twitter at Ric Bucher.
The Knicks cannot win no matter what happens. You are going to abuse them no matter what. And I can't blame you. That's the worst part. Like, I want to poke a hole in that thing, and I just can't. So go on with your bad self, yo.
Fox Sports 1 NBA Insider on Twitter at Ric Bucher. Rick, as always, buddy, so much fun with you. We'll talk to you and have a great week. Thanks a lot, bud.
Hey, they didn't get Kyrie Irving. That's a plus.
No, that is a plus. See, it is a plus. It is a plus. At least for now. At least for because tell me who.
Yeah, him and
call.
Thibodeau. Are you kidding me?
No. You wouldn't even call. You would just call Dolan and say, "Hey, I want to give you Kyrie Irving." He would say yes, and then just let everybody know. Oh, I traded for Kyrie, by the way. Just so you know, we have him now. Wait, what? We have Kyrie? Why didn't you tell us? They just called me. Steve Nash called me. We go back a ways. So yeah, I made that trade. What'd you give up? Everything we have right now.
What did it cost you?
Everything.